Hey there, welcome to another draw along. Today, we're gonna draw a little piggy with a lollipop. Looks like he's really excited about that lollipop with that big smile. We're just gonna jump right into it. The first shape that I'm seeing is his body, and the bottom of his body is a little rounded, and then it comes up, I don't know how I'd describe this shape, kind of like a rounded triangle, maybe. Kind of like that. I think the top is a little flatter. I don't know if you can see that well enough, but that's basically the shape of the body. I think that the pig's body is maybe a little bit thinner than it is here, but we'll just roll with it. And then the feet are a little more complicated here, but I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as possible. I don't want to work too hard here. I just want to put enough lines down to make it look like a pig. I think we can do that pretty easy. I know you can't see me, but I want you to know that whenever you see my pen hovering here, unless I'm talking, I'm looking up at the screen. So I'll like put a line down, look at the screen. Put a line down, look at the screen. Put a line down, look at the screen. And just check in with this image as I go. And we got a little curly cute tail there. And then, you know what, I think I wanna get this on. I think, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make him a little bit taller. Make him a little bit taller here. You really can't see the top of his head because the eyes are covering that. So he has an ear coming out the corner here, and then really close to the ear is this eye, the small eye. And then there's the big eye over here kind of covering the rest of his head. And the little eye is in front of the big eye. We got a little pupil there, and we have a larger pupil here. Okay, and then the top of the snout comes from the large eye here. It comes up just like that, and then there's this ellipse shape here. It's got kind of a pointy top and a rounded bottom, kind of. You know what? It looks like from the top of the snout comes down here, and then, hold on, it'll end somewhere over here underneath the small eye. This line will wrap around, but what I want to do is I want to put this little line in for the bottom of the eyelid, and then this little line, which is where the mouth is gonna connect to. So actually, I think the snout's even larger than I drew it. So I'm gonna bring this down a little bit more here. And then it's all just gonna wrap back around and come right up to that line I drew. Nice. And then from here we have his teeth. And then this line, the bottom of his mouth comes down here and goes out just like that. And then we have a few more teeth in here. Nice. Okay, so the top of the snout is pointy and comes out here and then sort of wraps right around into the bottom there. And then we have two more ellipses that are his nostrils. And then within those ellipses, there's a little line on the left side because the nostril has some thickness to it. So we got those in there. Got the big eye, got the small eye, got the pupils, we got the smile. I think now we need to get the ears. The ears seem a little complicated, but I do see some simple shapes in there. And I'm gonna draw, so the ear comes up and then it's flopped over and then points this direction. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna draw the part of the ear that is in the back. And this is how I see that shape. And then from this is like the bend in the ear here. And this is a little weird. Okay, so this ear comes close to the top of the big eye. And let's see, there's a line. Let's say maybe it ends here. Okay, so that's gonna be the furthest tip of this ear. And then the bottom of that comes around here and back up there, kind of like that. And then this comes up here and angles down. And then this ear, this part of the ear comes out like here and then cuts really hard back down. So you can see this shape that I drew first, and then I drew this shape on top of it. So if I erase this little line right there, then you can see the ear without any overlapping lines, without any hidden lines showing through. But initially, when you're drawing shapes, you want to draw through things. You don't want to hide this line here, even though it's not going to be in the finished drawing. You want to draw that line so that you can piece the shapes together in a way that makes sense to you. Maybe one day you get so good that you don't need to draw that line. And maybe your ear will just, you'll draw a line up, draw a line here, go over, up, out, and around, and then you got, an ear. This obviously isn't as good. That's because I'm not good enough yet to want to attempt to draw it like that. I would rather draw through and then, maybe erase a little bit to make it look all right. So there we are. Anyway, back to it. Now the ear in the back here comes from behind his eyes and goes behind this ear, comes up here. So this is another example. I could have just drawn the line all the way down like that, but I chose not to draw this line. So that there comes up here, pops up out from behind the other ear, and then has this little line coming this way. And then this ear is shaped very similar. You got this line coming up here, then it goes out and wraps around, comes under there, and then somewhere up here, I'll draw it. Somewhere up here, it comes back down. And then within the lower part of the ear here, we have some additional lines. So it looks like there's a little line there, and this line goes up, and this line goes up. Okay, yeah. And then back here, you can just see the lines that are like the inner edge of his ear. All right, I'm gonna erase this line in his eyeball that was originally the line for his body, and I'm gonna erase that line from the nose. All right, so now the line for his body goes behind the nose and you can't see it there. And we'll go over this with pen in a little bit too. All right, so now we got that. We're pretty much all put together. We have a couple lines. I don't want to draw the eyebrows up here because I think it'll be too many lines. I'll just draw that with pen later, but let's get some of these spots in here. He's got some little piggy spots on him. This is a big one. And then a couple little circles. Cool. All right, now we got the arms holding the lollipop. So just a couple lines coming out there. Okay, and then his thumb comes up like this and angles over. And then he has 2 fingers, it looks like. So the bottom finger goes out like that. This finger rounded. And then the bottom finger is a little more squared off. Okay. And then the arm in the back comes out from behind his body and goes right behind that thumb. Straight line out there. And then this line is a little bit above the thumb in the image, but the way I just drew it, that's not how it's gonna be. and that's fine. So the thumb comes up here and wraps around, and then you can see the two fingers. And one more finger. Cool. And then the lollipop. This is another example of drawing through. Now I can draw the lollipop stick all the way through his hand here, or what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a mark, lift up my pen, but trace where the stick is going, and then push my pencil back down again. I said pen, but I meant pencil. So I'm going up, I'm lifting the pencil, but tracing where the stick is going, and then pressing the pencil down again. Cool. All right, then we got a big circle up here for the lollipop. Nice. And then I erase the stick a little bit inside the lollipop. All right, and then the lollipop has some lines on it too. Nice. Now I'm not gonna do any color today, so maybe I'll just color with the pen and pencil. But I think that's about it. Oh, you know what? I should get a little more detail in his feet here. Separate those two toes. And then, I don't know if these are, what do they call them? Do they call them hooves? Hooves on a pig? But this line here separating the skin from the hooves or the nails, what have you. And what I want to make sure I do when I draw the bottom of the body here is the bottom of his body goes behind this front leg and then comes out from behind that front leg over here and curls up. And then you can see his other leg popping out from back there. Okay, I think that's good. I think I'm to a point here where I can pen this in. Let me erase a little bit better the ear I drew a little bit ago. All right, let's pen this in and see what we can do. I think I'm gonna start with the body. Let's get these little spots in here. I didn't put the detail in his curly Q tail here, so let's do that. Nice. All right. His mouth. I think I extended this line a little long before, so I'm going to shorten it up and I'm going to erase the rest of it there. Okay, let's get this line. All right, and then his teeth. And then this little smile line there. And then his snout, and then his nostrils, okay, then the top of his nose. Let's get the bottom of his eyelid here, and then this eye. big eye. And then his pupils. And then his ears. Nice. Color those, color the nostrils and the eyeballs in a second here. Or the lollipop stick. Actually, now that I think about it, I think the way I drew it, you'd be able to see a little bit of the stick there. All right, now, when I drew the lollipop with the pencil, I did several little circles to try to get it. So I want to try to get this circle right in one shot here. So I'm going to angle my sketchbook to a way that I think might help me with that. Not bad, not bad. Let's get those lines in there. Nice. Great. All right, let's color some things in. Let's get this eye. Get this nostril. And this nostril. Let's get these spots. I'm gonna keep these light. Let's get his toes, or hooves, nails, what have you. And let's color in some of these lines on the lollipop. I'm gonna make a couple of them darker than the others just to give it some more variety. Maybe I'll even do lines in different directions. Okay, I think that's it. Got the tail. Oh, the eyebrows, let's do that. So one eyebrow is up in the ear here, but I don't like that. So I'm gonna draw this eyebrow right here. I like that. And the other eyebrow is kind of right over the ears here. Nice. Got a happy little piggy about to tear into a lollipop. That's fantastic. I love it. If you drew along, I hope you like your little piggy, or you learned something at least from drawing it. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.